Jin-Ho looked up at the night sky and saw the strange light. It had been there for 3 days now. Not a star or a plane, but something else, something that made world leaders nervous. He never expected to be called. Jin-Ho was just a linguist who worked at Seoul National University. But when the aliens finally made contact, governments around the world scrambled to find people who might understand. "We need people who can think differently about language," his boss had told him. "The military has translators. We need dreamers." Now Jin-Ho sat in a cold room with 20 other specialists from around the world. They all watched screens showing the alien ship that hovered above the Pacific Ocean. It was smooth and oval, with no visible windows or doors. "They call themselves the Darrow," said General Park, pointing to a symbol on the screen. "At least, that's what we think they're saying." The communication had been basic so far. Simple pictures and sounds transmitted back and forth. The aliens seemed peaceful, but caution ruled every decision. "Tomorrow, they will land," the general continued. "A small craft will touch down at the neutral meeting point. 6 of you will join the welcome team." Jin-Ho's heart beat faster when he heard his name called. He would be one of the 6. That night, he couldn't sleep. He studied the limited information they had about the alien language. It seemed to use tones and rhythm in ways no human language did. He recorded himself trying different patterns until sunrise. The landing site was a flat area of concrete built specially for this moment. Jin-Ho stood with 5 others, a mathematician, a physicist, a biologist, a diplomat, and a military officer. They all wore white jumpsuits with no national symbols. When the small craft descended, it made no sound. It simply appeared in the sky and then settled onto the ground. For 5 minutes, nothing happened. Jin-Ho felt sweat running down his back, despite the cool morning air. Then, a section of the craft's side simply disappeared, revealing 3 figures. The Darrow were not what anyone expected. They stood on 2 legs like humans, but their bodies were thinner and taller. Their skin looked like polished copper, and their faces had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Where a human mouth would be, they had something like a small trunk that moved as they made sounds. The diplomat stepped forward with a translator device. It had been programmed with everything humans had learned so far. "Welcome to Earth," she said, and the device produced a series of tones and clicks. The aliens responded, but their sounds were different from what the machine expected. The translator flashed an error message. They tried again with the same result. Jin-Ho felt the moment slipping away. The aliens' body language, if you could call it that, showed signs of frustration. Their upper eyes blinked rapidly. Without asking permission, Jin-Ho stepped forward. He had brought his own small device, not a translator, but a simple tone generator he had programmed the night before. He played a sequence he had created based on his studies, then pointed to himself. "Jin-Ho," he said clearly. The aliens went still. Then the one in the middle stepped closer. It made a sound and pointed to itself. "Ril," it seemed to say. Jin-Ho smiled and played another sequence on his device. This one represented Earth, based on what he guessed might be their mathematical understanding of tones. He then pointed down at the ground. The alien named Ril made a sound that might have been excitement. It turned to its companions and made rapid sounds. Then it took out an object from somewhere in its clothing. The object projected a hologram of stars, a map. Ril pointed to one star, then to itself. Then it pointed to another star, clearly our sun, and then to Jin-Ho. "Yes," Jin-Ho said, nodding. "You come from there. We are here." For the next hour, Jin-Ho and Ril built a rudimentary communication system using tones, gestures, and drawings. The official translator device sat unused as Jin-Ho's simple approach created a bridge between worlds. Later, when they returned to the base, General Park was both impressed and frustrated. "You broke protocol," he said to Jin-Ho, "but you also made more progress in an hour than our computers did in days." That night, Jin-Ho was moved to a new team, one focused entirely on developing his method into a working language system. The Darrow, it seemed, understood music and mathematics in ways that aligned with their speech. They didn't form words like humans did, but rather concepts expressed through patterns. "They're surprised by us," Jin-Ho told his new team. "I could see it in their reactions. They didn't expect us to adapt so quickly." A week later, when the first official meeting between human leaders and Darrow representatives took place, Jin-Ho sat next to Ril. They had developed a system where Jin-Ho could translate the general meaning of what was said on both sides. The Darrow have visited 12 other worlds with intelligent life. Jin-Ho translated as Ril spoke, but none have learned to communicate with them as quickly as humans have. The human delegates looked pleased, but Jin-Ho sensed something more in Ril's tone patterns, something like worry or concern. When he asked about it privately, Ril showed him another star map. This one showed many more stars and systems. Others out there, Jin-Ho understood from Ril's explanation. Not all are friendly. That night, looking up at the stars again, Jin-Ho realized that Earth's first contact was just the beginning. The universe was more crowded than humans had imagined, and the Darrow had come with a purpose that went beyond simple greeting. They needed something from Earth, and Jin-Ho would soon learn what that was. 3 weeks after first contact, Hei-Yun stood before the Council of Six. She had never imagined herself in this position. Before the aliens came, she had been a tactical advisor for the Korean military. Now she represented all of Earth. The chamber was inside the main Darrow ship, which now rested on the ocean floor near Hawaii. The room was circular with walls that seemed to shift colors with the mood of the conversation. 6 alien representatives sat in curved chairs, 5 Darrow, and 1 being from another species Hei-Yun had never seen before. "We face a decision," said Ril, the Darrow who had first spoken with Jin-Ho. Jin-Ho himself stood nearby, using his tone system to translate. "Earth must be evaluated before full alliance membership." Hei-Yun nodded. The past weeks had revealed much. The Darrow were part of a galactic alliance of 12 species. Their arrival on Earth wasn't random. They were searching for new allies against a growing threat from the outer systems. "The evaluation has 3 challenges," Ril continued. "Strategy, adaptation, and cooperation. You will represent your world." "Why me?" Hei-Yun asked. "I'm not a diplomat or a scientist." "Your mind patterns interest us," answered Ril. "You think in ways different from others we interviewed." Hei-Yun wasn't sure if that was a compliment. She had been chosen after the aliens scanned hundreds of humans. Something in her brain activity had caught their attention. "The first challenge begins tomorrow," Ril said. "You will compete against representatives from 3 other candidate worlds." When Hei-Yun returned to the human quarters, she found a man waiting for her. He stood looking out the window at the strange underwater landscape illuminated by the ship's exterior lights. "I'm Sung-Min," he said, turning to her. "They assigned me as your technical advisor." Sung-Min was an engineer who had been studying the Darrow technology. He was younger than Hei-Yun, with quick eyes that seemed to analyze everything. "Do you know what these challenges involve?" she asked. "Not exactly," Sung-Min replied. "But I've seen some of their testing equipment. It's like nothing on Earth." The next morning, Hei-Yun entered a large chamber where 3 other beings waited. One looked like a tall insect with 4 arms. Another resembled a reptile standing upright. The third was almost human-like, but with pale blue skin and no visible nose. Ril entered with 2 other Darrow. "The first challenge tests strategic thinking," he announced. "Each candidate must direct their forces to secure objectives while adapting to changing conditions." The center of the room transformed into a 3-dimensional battlefield. It wasn't a screen or hologram. Somehow the space itself became the simulation. Hei-Yun could see tiny units representing different types of forces. "This simulates a real conflict from our history," Ril explained. "You will each control forces with different strengths and weaknesses." Heiyun's units appeared to be the weakest in conventional terms. They had less power and slower movement than the others. She studied the terrain and noticed something the others seemed to overlook. The environment itself could be used as an advantage. As the simulation began, the other candidates moved their forces directly toward the objectives. Their strategies were straightforward and powerful. Heiyun took a different approach. "What are you doing?" Some men whispered from behind her. "They're going to reach the objectives before us." "Watch," Heiyun said. Instead of heading directly to the targets, she positioned her units near environmental features: a mountain range, a narrow valley, and a river system. When the other forces approached the objectives, Heiyun triggered her trap. Her units diverted the river, causing a flash flood that caught the reptilian candidates' forces. They used the mountain pass to ambush the insect forces. The blue humanoids' units were stronger, but Heiyun had studied their movement patterns and predicted where they would go. By the end of the simulation, Heiyun had secured 2 of the 5 objectives, while causing the other candidates to fight each other over misunderstandings she had deliberately created. The Darrow observed silently. When the simulation ended, Rill approached Heiyun. "You controlled the weakest units," he said. "Yet you succeeded where others failed. Explain." "In Earth's history," Heiyun replied, "we learned that direct force isn't always the answer. Sometimes understanding the environment and your opponent's psychology matters more." The Darrow conferred among themselves. "Surprising," Rill finally said. "Most candidates try to overpower. You chose deception and environmental manipulation. Is that wrong?" Heiyun asked. "Not wrong. Different. The second challenge begins tomorrow." Later, in their quarters, some men helped Heiyun study the alien technology they would face next. "The other candidates have seen these devices before," some men said. "Their species have had contact with the Alliance for years. We're at a disadvantage." Heiyun looked at the strange mechanisms. "Then we need to think differently again. Tell me how these work." Some men explained what he had learned about Darrow technology. It used principles that Earth scientists had barely theorized about. "The adaptive challenge will test how quickly you can learn to use alien tools and solve problems with them," he said. That night, Heiyun couldn't sleep. She felt the weight of Earth's future on her shoulders. If she failed, humanity might be deemed unworthy of Alliance protection. As she stared at the ceiling, she realized something important. The Darrow weren't just testing skills. They were testing human nature itself. They wanted to see how humans thought, how they approached problems. "We don't need to be like them," she whispered to herself. "We need to show them why being human is valuable." The next morning, as she prepared for the second challenge, Jin-Ho came to see her. "I've been talking more with Rill," he said. "I think I understand what they're looking for. The Alliance needs diversity of thought. They face an enemy that thinks in ways they can't predict." Heiyun nodded. "And they want to see if humans think differently enough to be useful." "Exactly," Jin-Ho said. "So be yourself. That's our strength." Heiyun entered the challenge chamber with new determination. The Darrow and the other candidates were waiting. On a table lay devices unlike anything she had ever seen. "The adaptation challenge begins now," Rill announced. Heiyun stepped forward, ready to show them what humans could do. The adaptation challenge began with 5 strange devices laid out before each candidate. Heiyun studied them carefully. One looked like a sphere with shifting patterns on its surface. Another resembled a glove with too many fingers. The third was a cube that occasionally changed color. The fourth appeared to be some kind of headset. The fifth defied description. It seemed to change shape when she wasn't looking directly at it. The insect-like alien immediately picked up the devices and began manipulating them with practiced movements. The blue humanoid and reptilian beings also seemed familiar with the technology, though less confident. "Each device solves a different problem," Rill explained. "Together, they can be used to stabilize the energy pattern displayed before you." In the center of the room, A holographic display showed a swirling energy field. It pulsed with unstable patterns, occasionally flaring dangerously. "You have 1 hour," Rill concluded. Hei-Yun hesitated. The other candidates were already working, connecting devices, and making adjustments. She glanced at Sung-min, who stood in the observation area. He gave her an encouraging nod. She picked up the sphere first, turning it slowly in her hands. Unlike the other candidates, who immediately tried to make the devices work, Hei-Yun took time to understand them. She noticed how the patterns on the sphere changed when she moved her fingers across it. "It responds to touch patterns," she muttered to herself. After examining each device, Hei-Yun realized something the others hadn't. The devices weren't meant to be used by one person alone. They were designed for collaboration. While the other candidates struggled alone with their equipment, Hei-Yun approached the reptilian being. "We should work together," she said, with Jin Ho translating nearby. The reptilian looked surprised but refused with a sharp gesture. The insect-like being didn't even acknowledge her. Only the blue humanoid showed interest. "Why?" the blue being asked through its own translator. "These devices complement each other," Hei-Yun explained. "Look at the energy patterns. They mirror the connection points on the devices." The blue being, who called itself Tal, considered this. After a moment, it agreed to try Hei-Yun's approach. Together, they made more progress in 10 minutes than either had made alone. Hei-Yun's understanding of patterns combined with Tal's technical knowledge created an effective team. They figured out that the headset didn't just receive information. It transmitted the wearer's thoughts to the other devices. This isn't just technology, Hei-Yun realized. It's technology designed to respond to different types of minds working together. The insect being noticed their progress and reluctantly joined them. Only the reptilian continued to work alone, growing increasingly frustrated. With 30 minutes left, the three working together had stabilized half of the energy pattern. Hei-Yun suggested they invite the reptilian once more. "We need 4 different minds," she explained. "The pattern has 4 distinct components." This time, seeing their progress, the reptilian joined them. Each candidate now wore one device and operated another with their hands. Working together, following Hei-Yun's coordination, they stabilized the energy pattern just as time expired. Rill and the other Daro observed silently. When the challenge ended, they conferred among themselves. "Interesting," Rill finally said. "3 of you have seen similar technology before, yet you could not solve the problem alone." The human, who has never seen our technology, identified its true purpose. "The devices were designed for cooperation," Hei-Yun explained. "Different minds working together create something greater than what any could achieve alone." Rill nodded. "This is the principle of our alliance. No single species can overcome the challenges that face us. Only together do we have a chance." After the challenge, Sung-min joined Hei-Yun in the human quarters. His eyes were bright with excitement. "That was brilliant," he said. "You didn't try to master the technology. You mastered its purpose." Hei-Yun smiled. "I couldn't have done it without understanding the technical aspects you explained to me last night. The way their technology integrates with consciousness, it's not something we would develop on Earth. Not yet. Anyway," Sung-min said, "but we could. That's what I've been studying." He showed her his notes and diagrams about Doro technology. While others had focused on what the technology did, Sung-min had been trying to understand how it worked. "Their devices respond to emotional states as much as to logical commands," he explained. "It's like they built empathy into their machines." Hei-Yun saw the connections immediately. "That's why the headset worked better when I felt connected to the others. It wasn't just reading my thoughts, it was reading my feelings about the team." That night, Rill came to speak with them. The alien seemed more open now, less formal. "Your approach surprised us," Rill admitted. "Most new species try to prove their individual worth. You immediately sought cooperation. It seemed obvious," Hei-Yun said. "The problem was too complex for one mind to solve." "Not obvious to others," Rill replied. The final challenge tomorrow will test this quality further. After Ril left, Hei-yun and Sung-min walked through the ship's observation deck. Through the transparent walls, they could see the ocean life swimming past, curious about the alien vessel. "What do you think the final challenge will be?" Sung-min asked. "Something unexpected," Hei-yun said. "They're not just testing our abilities. They're testing our adaptability, our creativity, our humanity," Sung-min added. Hei-yun nodded. "I think that's what they're really interested in. Not our technology or our resources, but our way of thinking." As they watched the sea creatures swimming in patterns around the ship, Hei-yun had an idea. "Can you access the ship's information systems?" she asked. Sung-min nodded. "Some parts of it. They've given us limited access. Show me everything you can find about the threat they're facing, the reason they need new allies." For hours, they pored over the information available. Most was vague, describing an expanding force from the outer systems that had already destroyed 2 civilizations allied with the Duro. "They don't think like us," Hei-yun murmured, reading the reports. "They don't think like any alliance species. That's why they need humans," Sung-min realized. "We're unpredictable to them." Hei-yun smiled. "Exactly. And tomorrow, we'll show them just how unpredictable we can be." As they prepared for sleep, a message arrived from Ril. "The final challenge begins at dawn. It will not be what you expect." Hei-yun wasn't worried anymore. Being unexpected was humanity's specialty. The final challenge never came. Instead, alarms blared throughout the ship, waking Hei-yun from a restless sleep. Red lights pulsed along the corridors as she rushed to the command center, where she had been told to report in case of emergency. Sung-min met her halfway. "Something's happening," he said, his voice tight with worry. "The Daro are in full defensive mode." When they reached the command center, they found chaos. Daro officers moved quickly between stations while holographic displays showed multiple objects approaching Earth's orbit. Ril spotted them and hurried over. "The tests are suspended," the alien said, its voice pattern reflecting urgency that even Hei-yun could recognize. "We face a real crisis now." "What's happening?" Hei-yun asked. "The Vex have found us," Ril replied. "The enemy we spoke of. They must have followed our ship to your world." Jin-ho appeared with another human, a military strategist named Do-hyun who had been working with the defense teams. Do-hyun's expression was grim as he studied the tactical displays. 3 Vex ships, Do-hyun explained to Hei-yun. "Larger than the Daro vessel. They're positioning themselves in high orbit." "Is this an invasion?" Hei-yun asked. Ril made a gesture that Jin-ho had learned meant uncertainty. "The Vex do not invade in the way you might think. They transform. They change worlds to suit themselves, regardless of existing life." The main display showed 3 dark ships, angular and threatening compared to the smooth curves of Daro design. They had taken position in a triangle formation above Earth. "They will begin by disrupting communication systems," Ril continued. "Then they will send probes to analyze your biosphere. Within days, they will begin atmospheric modification." Do-hyun stepped forward. "I've been studying your records of previous Vex encounters," he said. "Their strategy has a pattern." The Daro commander turned to Do-hyun with surprise. "Pattern? The Vex are chaos. That is why they are so difficult to predict." "No system is completely without pattern," Do-hyun insisted. "May I?" He gestured to the control panel. After a moment's hesitation, the commander granted him access. Do-hyun brought up records of previous Vex attacks on Alliance worlds. "Look here," he said, pointing to data streams. "And here, and here. They always position their ships in the same formation relative to the planet's magnetic field. They always begin with the same sequence of atmospheric testing." The Daro commander studied the information. "We never noticed this consistency. Humans are pattern seekers," Hei-yun explained. "Sometimes we see connections others miss." A new alarm sounded. One of the Darrow officers reported, "Energy buildup in the lead Vex vessel. They are preparing to fire. Our shields cannot withstand a concentrated attack from all three ships," the commander said. "We must retreat and call for alliance reinforcements." "That would leave Earth defenseless," Sung Min protested. He-Yun looked at Do-Hyun, seeing the concentration in his eyes. "You have an idea," she said. Do-Hyun nodded. "Based on the pattern, I think the Vex ships communicate in sequence, not simultaneously. They're powerful individually, but they coordinate in a specific order." He pointed to the tactical display. "If we can disrupt the lid ship at the exact moment it transmits instructions to the others, we might create confusion in their attack sequence." The Darrow commander seemed skeptical. "How would we time such an attack? And with what weapons? Our ship is not designed for offensive operations." Sung Min stepped forward. "What about the adaptation devices from yesterday's challenge? They manipulate energy patterns. Could they be modified to create a targeted disruption pulse?" The commander turned to a Darrow scientist who had been observing the tests. After a brief discussion in their own language, the scientist nodded. "Theoretically possible," the scientist said, "but it would require precise targeting and timing." "I can calculate that," Do-Hyun said confidently, "based on their previous attack patterns." He-Yun felt the weight of the moment. Earth's first contact with alien life was now becoming Earth's first interstellar conflict. She looked at the three humans in the room. Jin-Ho the linguist, Sung Min the engineer, and Do-Hyun the strategist. Each brought different skills, different ways of thinking. "Let us help," she said to the Darrow commander. "This is our world too." After a tense discussion among the Darrow leadership, the commander agreed. "We have limited time. The Vex will complete positioning within 2 hours." They worked frantically. Sung Min and the Darrow scientists modified the adaptation devices to produce a focused energy pulse. Do-Hyun analyzed Vex attack patterns to predict the exact moment of vulnerability. Jin-Ho helped coordinate between teams, his translation skills proving vital as technical terms flew back and forth. He-Yun moved between groups, seeing connections others missed. She noticed how Sung Min's modifications aligned with Do-Hyun's timing calculations in ways neither had recognized. "We need to synchronize these systems," she said, bringing the teams together. "The pulse needs to match the exact frequency Do-Hyun has identified." As they worked, the Vex ships completed their formation. The lead ship began powering its main weapon, a beam that could penetrate deep into Earth's atmosphere. "Energy levels rising," a Darrow officer reported. "Estimated firing time in 3 minutes." The modified device was ready, but untested. It consisted of the 5 adaptation challenge components linked to the ship's main power system. Sung Min's hands moved quickly over the connections, making final adjustments. 2 minutes, the officer counted down. Do-Hyun positioned himself at the targeting controls. "I need to time this perfectly," he said. "They'll begin their command sequence 5 seconds before firing." 1 minute. He-Yun stood beside the Darrow commander, watching the holographic display of the 3 Vex ships. Earth hung below them, beautiful and vulnerable. 30 seconds. Jin-Ho joined them. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "humans and Darrow worked together. That means something." 10 seconds. Sung Min gave a thumbs up. The device was ready. 5 seconds. Do-Hyun's fingers hovered over the controls. Command sequence initiating. Now. He activated the device. A pulse of energy, invisible but powerful, shot from the Darrow ship directly at the lead Vex vessel. For a terrible moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the lead Vex ship's energy buildup faltered, its weapon powered down. The other 2 ships began moving erratically, as if confused by contradictory instructions. It worked. Sung Min shouted. The Darrow commander immediately ordered, "Target their propulsion systems while they're disoriented." The Darrow ship moved swiftly, firing precise shots at each Vex vessel's engines. Without coordination, the Vex couldn't respond effectively. Within minutes, all three enemy ships were drifting, disabled but not destroyed. Alliance reinforcements will arrive within 12 hours, the commander announced. We have saved your world today. Hei-Yun looked at her fellow humans, each exhausted but triumphant. They had faced their first interstellar crisis, and humanity had proven its worth. 6 months after the Vex attack, Mai-Jung stood on the observation deck of the Alliance vessel Harmony. The ship was massive compared to the Duro craft that had first visited Earth. Through the viewing window, she could see the space station where representatives from 12 different species now worked together. Earth was about to become the 13th member. Mai-Jung had not expected this role. Before the aliens came, she had been a junior cultural attaché in the diplomatic corps. When the delegation was formed to meet the Duro, she was included almost as an afterthought, someone to take notes and assist the senior diplomats. Now she would be Earth's first official ambassador to the Galactic Alliance. Nervous? Asked Jin-Ho, who had become one of her closest advisors. His tone translation system had evolved into a sophisticated language interface that all human representatives now used. A little, Mai-Jung admitted. This ceremony means everything changes. There's no going back after today. The last 6 months had transformed Earth. After the Vex attack, humans couldn't deny the reality of their new place in a wider, more dangerous universe. Countries that had been enemies for generations now worked together on planetary defense systems. Scientific progress leaped forward as Duro technology was carefully shared with Earth researchers. Sung Min entered the observation deck. He wore the blue uniform of the new Earth Space Agency, with patches showing both Earth's flag and the Alliance symbol. The Alliance Council is ready, he said. They're waiting in the Grand Chamber. Mai-Jung took a deep breath and straightened her formal diplomatic jacket. As she turned to leave, Hei-Yun and Du-Hyun joined them. The four who had helped save Earth from the Vex would all witness this historic moment. Did you ever imagine this? Hei-Yun asked as they walked the curving corridors of the station. 6 months ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. I still think about that first day sometimes, Jin-Ho said. How close we came to misunderstanding each other completely. The Grand Chamber was designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. The ceiling soared 20 meters high for the benefit of the towering Kilari, while small hovering platforms accommodated the diminutive Vox. In the center, 12 seats arranged in a circle represented the founding members of the Alliance. A 13th seat waited empty. As Mai-Jung entered, all activity in the chamber paused. Representatives from a dozen worlds turned to observe the humans. Some used technological aids to see them better, while others relied on sensory organs humans still didn't fully understand.